Good evening, you are watching ReNEWS in English. I'm Sona Tumanyan. From Gallup polls to Security Council Secretary Armenia's visit to Paris, a brief overview of Friday's news flow. The Armenian pavilion in Japan, titled Pillars of Today and Tomorrow, and Nikol Pashinyan's entry in the Honored Guests Memorial Book. Armenia-France bilateral relations at the core of the Secretary of the Security Council's visit to Paris. Gallup International's new poll: who would the Armenian population elect in the upcoming elections? What does learning a neighboring country's language offer in an Armenian school? Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, on a working visit to Japan, visited the Expo 2025 World Exhibition in Osaka and published a video. The next video was from the Armenian pavilion at the Expo, titled Pillars of Today and Tomorrow. The previous day, the Prime Minister had also published two videos from his walk through the streets of Tokyo. In the first, he mentioned that there were no people smoking in the streets of the megapolis, and in the second, that despite the lack of trash cans, the city was clean. Accompanied by the exhibition organizers, the Prime Minister first toured the exhibition pavilions and then made an entry in the Honored Guests Memorial Book. Following this, a traditional Japanese tea ceremony took place, attended by Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, members of the Armenian delegation, and Japan's Parliamentary Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs Hisashi Matsumoto.
The pavilion also pays special attention to the implementation of Armenia's future-oriented vision for peace, embedded in the crossroads of peace, which we see as a reality where countries live with open borders, are connected through active economic, political, and cultural ties, and are committed to resolving all issues through diplomacy and dialogue.
One must choose between peace and non-peace. These are the words of the Prime Minister of Armenia. And according to Gallup polls, the population of Armenia does not hesitate in their choice. They would choose the same party, civil contract. A brief reflection by Simon Hovanesyan.
Who would the people elect if elections were held this Sunday?
In the upcoming elections, citizens must choose between peace and non-peace.
17.3% of our citizens would go and vote for civil contract. Pashinyan's competitor, according to the poll numbers, is Sambel Karapetyan. 13.4% are ready to vote for his party, which will be created in Our Way. Next is the Armenia bloc with 6.4%. Other forces did not exceed 5%. No political force received more than 20% confidence in the survey conducted among 1,101 people.
The number, right, the percentage of people who stated in our previous studies that they would not vote for any party or would not participate in the elections has decreased, and if at that time we registered about 60-65% who were undecided or would not participate in the party elections, then in this round we have a decrease in that indicator, and about 40% are now those who say that they are still undecided or will not participate in the elections.
Are there political prisoners in Armenia? 62% of respondents said yes. Of those, 71% considered Sambel Karapetyan for political prisoner. The survey also included a question about Armenian-Azerbaijani relations and the document signed in Washington.
The overwhelming responses are in the negative range. About 47% reacted negatively to the signing of this declaration, but we also have almost 40% who responded positively, but only 22.8% responded fully positively.
The research company also asked people about the road passing through Shunik. How did they evaluate the provision of a road to Azerbaijan through the territory of Shunik? Approximately 60% answered generally and more negative, 35% evaluated it fully and more positive. About 6% found it difficult to answer. But beyond percentages and sociological formulations, Nikol Pashinyan also has another criterion for understanding people's opinions.
The citizens of the Republic of Armenia consider that it should not be this way. I myself call on the citizens to make a revolution. But the fact is that our citizens did not make that revolution because...
Simon Hovanesyan, ReOpen Media.
During his working visit to Paris, Secretary of the Security Council of Armenia Armen Grigoryan met with Nicolas Rochet, Secretary General for Defense and National Security to the French Prime Minister. The interlocutors discussed the agenda of Armenia-France bilateral relations, particularly focusing on security cooperation and discussing cooperation with the framework of cybersecurity and combating disinformation in the information environment. Armen Grigoryan presented the agreements reached on August 8 regarding the unblocking of regional communication negotiations, emphasizing that broad economic opportunities would be created for both the region and extra-regional countries. Within the framework of his visit to Paris, Secretary of the Security Council Armenia Grigoryan also had a working dinner with Brice Roquefort, Director of the Continental Europe Department at the French Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs. Grigoryan did not provide further details beyond this announcement. During the plenary session of the Eastern Economic Forum, in response to a question about Russia's role in an alliance with India and China, Vladimir Putin stated, "The bear remains a bear, but the world's largest tiger is also Russian. And Russia's two-headed eagle looks not only west and east, but also south." According to him, the Federation has a stable and predictable foreign and economic policy. "We have good proposals for working with American companies in Alaska," Putin said. Reuters had previously reported that Trump and Putin discussed several energy deals during negotiations in Alaska. Donald Trump is set to sign an executive order today that will officially restore the name Department of War for the Pentagon, a White House official announced. The order will allow the use of the department's original name, Department of War, alongside the current Department of Defense, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth will become Secretary of War. The order also directs Hegseth to take steps to make the change permanent. The Pentagon's public websites and office signage will be updated. The United States Department of War was established in 1789 to oversee the Army, while the Navy operated under a separate department. After World War II, President Harry Truman sought to unite the armed forces, leading to the creation of the National Military Establishment in 1947, which was renamed the Department of Defense 2 years later. During negotiations of the coalition of volunteers, allies agreed to set a goal of providing Ukraine with strong positions so that after the end of hostilities, it would never again be subjected to Russian attack. According to Bloomberg, the plan aims to turn Ukraine into hedgehog, a strategy also known as the Israel or South Korea model. The Israeli army announced that it controls 40% of Gaza City and will expand operations in the coming days. Ongoing bombardment has forced many Palestinians to leave their homes, while thousands of residents have ignored Israeli orders to evacuate, remaining in their ruins. Health authorities in the enclave reported that Israeli shelling killed 53 people in the past day, mostly in the capital. Israeli forces are a few kilometers from the city center. Argentina's Congress has for the first time overturned a veto imposed by President Javier Milei, raising the stakes for the head of state as the country approaches important legislative elections. The Senate vote, controlled by the opposition with 63 in favor and 7 against, was the final push to overturn Milei's veto on bills increasing spending for people with disabilities and defense. The South Caucasus remains a critical nexus of geopolitical competition and clashing interests, where every actor's move can significantly impact the future of the entire region. While Armenia's eastern and western neighbors frequently discuss establishing a transit corridor through Armenian territory, the Iranian ambassador to Armenia offers a crucial reminder. There is no mention of the word corridor in the documents signed in Washington. Mehdi Sobhani also dismisses talks of a 99-year lease as incorrect and meaningless, a sentiment echoed by Armenia's foreign minister. Monica Hayran has the full report.
One of the most influential actors in the South Caucasus, Iran, once again clarifies its position. Any corridor agenda is unacceptable for Tehran. Mehdi Sobhani, the Islamic Republic's ambassador to Armenia, has once again dispelled circulating assumptions, emphasizing that the documents do not contain what we hear daily from Baku.
Neither the peace agreement document nor the declaration signed between the two countries in Washington mentions transportation routes or anything called a corridor, but only discusses the opening of transportation routes that will provide Azerbaijan with access to Nakhichevan, while Armenia, in turn, will be connected by railway to Julfa, Iran.
Incidentally, in St. Petersburg, Iran's Deputy Minister of Transport and Head of Railways, Jabar Ali Zakari, and the manager of Armenian Railways, South Caucasian Railways, CEO Alexei Melnikov, discussed expanding cooperation. Iranian international expert Ehsan Movahedian addressed the issue of the so-called Zangezur corridor, noting that if Armenia has security problems, Iran can provide certain security guarantees, as the situation also affects Iran. In recent weeks, the topic of a 99-year lease has been widely discussed in the information field. Ambassador Subhani also referred to this, drawing parallels with Zvartnots Airport.
Yerevan Airport belongs to the Armenian government, and passport control, customs procedures, and security checks are carried out by the government. However, the management of the airport has been transferred to an investment company, so the expressions used under the name 99-year lease for the agreed transit route are incorrect.
This emphasis is particularly important in Armenia's domestic political discourse, where every alleged concession, according to him, is immediately perceived as a loss of sovereignty. Tehran also clearly states its red lines, without which it will not consider any initiative. According to the ambassador, the text of the Armenian-Azerbaijani declaration includes these principles, and if the U.S. tries to take additional steps, Iran will react.
The text of the declaration between Azerbaijan and Armenia, the details of which the two countries should discuss in the future, fully takes into account the 5 principles desirable for the Islamic Republic of Iran, including respect for national sovereignty, territorial integrity, jurisdiction, reciprocity, so there is no reason to worry about it.
Russia appears more restrained compared to Iran in assessing alleged risks to its interests.
We look with cautious optimism at the pre-signed agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. This is also an important contribution to strengthening peace in our large Eurasian region.
Russia's cautious optimism can be read as a dual message. On the one hand, Moscow does not reject recent processes. On the other hand, it tries to maintain its positions in the region by opposing the increasing influence of the West, particularly Washington here. Monica Hyroyan, ReOpen Media.
International search will be declared for the former director of ANIF, David Papazian. This assignment was given by the investigative committee in response to a head inquiry. The investigative body reported that his arrest was chosen as a measure of restraint. I remind you that on August 15, the General Prosecutor's Office initiated a public criminal prosecution against David Papazian, the former director of the Armenian National Interest Fund, or ANIF, Bella Manukyan, the former director of the Entrepreneur State Anti-Crisis Investments Fund, and Karine Andreasyan, the director of CFW Company. Papazian was criminally prosecuted under 3 articles at once: document forgery, money laundering on a particularly large scale, and abuse of official powers in the private sector. By the way, Papazian publishes photos proving his presence in London. The more languages you know, the more human you are, we often say when it comes to learning a language. Since September 2022, a program to teach one of the regional languages as a third foreign language has been introduced in 33 schools in Armenia. Today, Armenian students are studying the languages of neighboring countries, including Persian and Georgian. The topic is the focus of attention for my colleague Narina Evocabank.
سلام بچه. سلام معلم. بفرمایید.
Considering regional specificities and the prospects of economic and cultural cooperation, in 2022, the Ministry of Education announced the launch of a pilot program for teaching regional languages, Turkish, Azerbaijani, Persian, and Georgian, in schools. According to Artashas Torasan, advisor to the minister, the program aims to create new opportunities for students, both in terms of continuing their education and finding employment.
In recent years, tourism has developed quite a lot, and knowledge of Persian, or the languages of neighboring countries in the tourism sector, was very useful for the population. That's why the provision on teaching neighboring countries' languages found its place in the government's program.
Thus, Persian and Georgian are currently studied in primary school as a second or third foreign language.
Persian is a very interesting language. It was difficult at first, but Mrs. Arzumanyan helped us a lot.
It's imperative to know the language of our neighbors because they are our neighbors, and it's necessary for economic ties. A time will come when our neighbors will also want to learn our language, so we must set an example for them.
Աշակերտները ուսումնասիրում են 5-ից 9-րդ դասարան։
Students study in grades 5 through 9, and if we can help them reach B1 level, that is truly serious progress for them. That is, it will be quite beneficial for them in terms of future career choices.
Բնականաբար, երբ որ առարկան լեզուն ուսումնասիրում ես,
Naturally, when you study a language, there are lessons that are about history, about their holidays, and we celebrate the holidays too. The subject allows you to get acquainted with education and culture. Turkish and Azerbaijani are taught exclusively in high school and only in the form of club activities. The ministry had previously surveyed all schools in Armenia. Out of 1,400, 400 responded positively to the proposal to teach one of the regional languages as a third foreign language. Since September 2022, the program has been introduced in 33 schools in Armenia.
ممنونم. روز خوبی داشته باشید.
Given that there are few specialists with knowledge of regional languages in the Republic, and not all of them have higher education, let alone a teacher's qualification, the ministry had proposed making a change in the teacher competition procedure to admit a specialist based on any certificate proving knowledge of the given language. But the Ministry of Justice rejected the proposal, considering it to contradict the law on general education. 3 years later, the most important issue, that of specialists, remains unresolved, and precisely for this reason, the number of schools studying regional languages has decreased instead of increased. Specialists in these languages generally do not have a pedagogical qualification, which is why most of them have not succeeded in being included in the program. Since regional languages, Turkish and Azerbaijani, are taught in a club format and are not mandatory, schools are sometimes forced to give them up. To solve this problem, the ministry proposes several options.
Acquiring qualifications during work. A specialist can be hired and complete the necessary credits within 1 year. Voluntary certification. Even specialists not working in schools can participate in voluntary certification. If they successfully pass, they can receive a higher salary, for example, a 50% bonus, and start working in a school. This will allow for an attractive salary from the outset. We all have our work to do, but, I repeat, everything develops over time, and we should give to the school and the teacher.
Persian has been chosen mainly by schools in Yerevan and Kotayk province, Turkish by those in the capital and Armavir province, Georgian by educational institutions in Shirak and Tavush, and Azerbaijani in Sunik. The choice of languages and their regional distribution are largely determined by the availability of specialists. According to data provided by Artashes Torasan, the program includes 15 schools teaching Persian, mainly in Yerevan, 3 each teaching Georgian and Turkish, and 1 teaching Azerbaijani. Textbooks are available for Persian. In the case of clubs, textbooks for Turkish and Azerbaijani are not provided, and teachers use various educational materials. Nevertheless, according to experts, public attitudes are gradually changing, with the understanding that language knowledge is an important tool, especially in our region. Nareen Kukazian, ReOpen Media.
This much for today. I'm Sona Tumanyan. Stay informed with ReNews. Good night.